Have any of you heard of Chad Vara? Well, if you haven't, then let me tell you a little bit about him. He was a vicar in the Church of England Diocese of London. Does that help? No? Okay, then let me explain. He was the founder of the Samaritans. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have heard of them. And Chad Vara founded this amazing organisation in 1953. 18 years before, when he was a young vicar, one of the first things he had to do was to bury a 14-year-old girl who had committed suicide. If this young girl had been able to talk to someone, she would never have done it. She killed herself because she thought there was something wrong with her, and a simple conversation would have meant she would have known that there wasn't and that she was fine. And this really impacted Chad. A little like the Samaritan in our story today, he just couldn't walk away. Over the years, he continued to help everyone he could alongside his busy role. But he was working in London, and there were at least 3 suicides a day. As well as being a vicar, he was a writer. And with the permission of his bishop, he got his journalist friends from Fleet Street to advertise the phone number at the vicarage so people who were feeling desperate could call for help. And then the volunteers began to turn up. He had no idea how this work would be funded, but he knew it was what God would want him to do. And he named the organisation after the hero of our story today. Let us thank God for Chad. Let us thank God too that he wasn't like the priest in today's story who turned away when someone was hurt. Imagine that. The Samaritans now have over 21,000 volunteers and receive over 5 million calls a year from desperate people crying out for help. Probably more than ever since COVID-19. But just look how God has multiplied Chad's good deed. What they do is amazing. It's life-saving. They help anybody. It may have been started by a Christian, but it's there for people of all faiths and of none. Because what he did, what these volunteers do, is what we hear about in our reading today. They loved their neighbour. The expert who tried to test Jesus asked, "Who is my neighbour?" And that's why he told this story. It's pretty certain that the man who was beaten up and left to die was a Jew. Yet 2 fellow Jews, one a priest and the other a Levite, turned away. It was a Samaritan that stopped to help. That means he was from Samaria. And what you need to know is that the Jews and the Samaritans hated each other. Yet in spite of this Samarian man, this Samaritan, took pity on him. He bandaged his wounds, put him on his own donkey, and took him to a nearby inn to recover and to be looked after. And then he paid so he would be looked after until he came back. He showed mercy. And he did what God asks us all to do. What Chad Vara and the Samaritan volunteers do. He loved his neighbour. Because the message in this story is that everyone is our neighbour. Not just the people who live next door. Everybody. Even people we don't know. And even people we don't like. So here's the question. Would we have done what the Samaritan did? Would we have done what Chad Vara did? Would we, do what the many, many volunteers do when they help charities which help others? Because that is exactly what we must do. God tells us that in the commandments, and Jesus says that too. He said, as we hear at the end of the reading, go and do likewise. In other words, go and do the same. If you see someone in trouble, then help them, because they are your neighbour. Whatever gift God has given to you, He has given it to you so that you can use it to bless others and to make a difference in the world. So, our question is, will we be the Levite? Will we be the priest? Or will we be the Samaritan? God always gives us a choice. Let's choose well. God bless. Amen.